Guys, welcome to the broadcast. Today, this is part 2 of Coming to America. I felt it is rather important that we talk about the aftermath of the whole MacG and Ari Lennox saga. Just to give you a background for those who have no clue what I'm talking about, who just happen to watch this video, MacG is a South African podcaster who is also a DJ. He's got a history of being a radio presenter. He's done it for over 20 years. He's worked for YFM. He's been fired from YFM, worked for 94.7. There's a couple of things that for me are rather concerning when it comes to this whole story of MacG. But I think the most important things we must talk about is who is MacG and how did it become so controversial to South Africans and now Americans. With the whole story of Ari Lennox, he's also now become controversial overseas. Well, MacG has an interview with Ari Lennox. Ari Lennox, who's an American singer. Ari Lennox management team contacted MacG last year to do an interview. I suppose it was in line with promoting the single by Ari Lennox and Nasty C. Apparently the interview was done last year, but it only showed 2 weeks ago. On the interview, MacG happens to ask Ari Lennox an uncomfortable question. When I watched the interview, I could see Ari Lennox was genuinely shocked that MacG asked the question. You guys have to go check the interview to understand what I'm talking about. Ari Lennox is an American musician who is liberal about her sexuality. She sings about it. She expresses certain things in detail. And we all know MacG, those are some of the questions they would tackle. I guess you could call it a match made in hell. So MacG, this is his take on the whole thing, that Ari Lennox management contacted him and asked him for an interview. He didn't know anything about Ari Lennox. He had about an hour or so to prepare for this interview. And then the first thing that he saw when he was doing research was how liberal she is about her sexuality. And MacG, being MacG, thought, oh wow, okay, I like this. Clearly, this is going to be my kind of interview. The interview was done over the internet. So the first thing that MacG does is ask Ari Lennox a question about her sexuality that she's not comfortable with. She does address shock. She does show shock, because I remember there was a part where Ari Lennox asked, why do you ask like that? Wow, what a question. And then MacG does say, I mean, it's something that you said on your song. What most people don't realize, I must say, even I sort of cringed a bit when I saw that. I'll be honest, I felt kind of embarrassed for MacG, but I quickly moved on from that, because the interview, what most people don't realize, that the interview was actually a great interview. They had a good conversation. A lot of people did pick out that first question up, and it started becoming a discussion on Twitter. As a result, it doesn't sit well with Ari Lennox, and she regrets that she handled it the way that she did. And she addressed a couple of things, and it was a back and forth now between Ari Lennox and South Africa. I say South Africa. I don't know if it's South Africa as a whole or it was the chillers, those who follow MacG's platform. So it was a heated thing now that we saw a lot of celebrities coming in on board and taking sides. A lot of South African women, and that needs to be clear, that a lot of South African women were against MacG. And there's a lot of them that defended MacG. And there are two sides to this, because the argument is this: if you sing so liberally about your sexuality, why would you have a problem with somebody asking you about your sexuality? Are you expecting people to consume things that you yourself are not willing to digest? Those are arguments that are out there. Some would say the fact that as a woman you speak about your sexuality doesn't give a man a right to just impose such manners without a woman's consent. So, I mean, those are strong arguments from one side. So we saw, I mean, because this became a trending topic, Ari Lennox ended up saying that she's done with this. She'll never do interviews. She'll never come to South Africa. Clearly, South Africa is not a place that she'll come to. And she was just generally unhappy. So there was a lot of things that happened So Charlemagne from the Breakers Club, he also addressed this. A lot of people were sort of on the fence because people do acknowledge that maybe the question could have been asked more tactfully. But MacG was adamant that he didn't do anything wrong. He doesn't say anything wrong with asking a woman who sings liberally about sexuality sexual questions. I am giving you a background because I want to talk about the thing that concerns me with this whole thing. Because number one, we're seeing South Africans going head to head with Americans. This is at a time where there is an understanding of how the black person in general all over the world has been oppressed. And one can't help but feel a sadness when you see it has become a black on black collision, because not long ago South Africans were loving the black Americans, and the black Americans were loving South Africa because that's where they feel their roots are, in Africa. I've seen this play itself out on Twitter. It's not the first time. Anele Mdoda said a comment at some point about Kelly Rowland from Destiny's Child, and then there was a back and forth. The Americans ate her alive. I don't know what it is. There's been a strain on the relationship between the black Americans and the black South Africans. Mensa Main, an American YouTuber who loves South Africa, who does South African content, who's been embraced in South Africa, apparently he had a comment on this and there was backlash, so he had to take down the video. You see, this has put a lot of strain, in inverted commas, call it diplomatic relations between South Africa and America. There has been a lot of interchanging of ideas and all sorts of things. And this is all due to the help of internet. I mean, I can tell you that MacG has been inspired to do what he does, has been inspired by a lot by Americans. We as singers, as rappers, as actors, we've looked up to Americans so much because they've always, for us, represented at a time that we were oppressed in South Africa. We saw these black Americans on TV who were working, who were making money, things we wish we could do and we couldn't do at the time. And so America, and more especially to blacks, the black Americans, has always been inspiration to us, and everything in entertainment that we do has been inspired by them. And it's coming full circle now because the Americans are paying attention to us. They can see us now because of internet, and they're loving what we are. They're loving the fact that we are raising the bar in terms of entertainment. They're also loving the fact that we are Africans in Africa, which is a place they long for and love. So when things like this happen, I often wonder if they don't paint a bad picture, or we move 3 steps forward and backwards. And I cannot really blame MacG nor Ari Lennox. I guess that's what happened. Even in a romantic relationship, there is that honeymoon phase, and then that's when you start dealing with real issues where you have to butt heads in order to get to know each other. I'm hoping that's all it is. This is us getting to know each other, and it's not going to turn into a hate thing, because we need to embrace one another. The other thing that happened amidst all of this is that Joe Budden also made a comment about MacG. He was also commenting on the Ari Lennox saga, and he happened to say something about MacG is a shock jock. Not only that, I also felt that was strange because he says because of the controversy, he had to research what's going on and who's MacG and so forth. But we see him say he doesn't know his name. He must be reminded of his name. He doesn't know where he comes from. He must be reminded. And to me, that was acting a little bit insecure because there was no need for him to pretend that he doesn't know who MacG is when he himself said he researched him. There was no need for him to pretend he doesn't know where he comes from. So what did you research exactly? You were able to research there. You were able to establish that he's a shock jock, but you were not able to establish that he's from South Africa and his name. So what did you research? So Saul, who is a co-host with MacG on the podcast, he raises this up and he says, the guy thinks that by acknowledging MacG is giving me a platform and probably is giving him numbers. So this didn't sit well with the podcast and chill crew with the MacG's team. So they started making fun of this and they started calling him out. They started calling Joe Budden out. And there were things said there, and they started swearing in him in vernac, and they said, go research that. While I think it's okay for MacG and them to express their feelings, well, I think that is what makes MacG, that's why we watch the podcast and chill, because it is genuinely refreshing to see people who are bluntly honest. And I think we go to this channel because we are tired of this controlled media. You can see there's no innovation, nothing is new. I mean, just by watching MacG, we've been exposed to so much, some of the things that we didn't know. I mean, there's so many fresh things out there that the TV doesn't even have a mind to show. So my take on this, now MacG has gone to another podcast, which is called The Higher Learning, to apologize. And he does admit on the interview that because also the guys from The Higher Learning were tackling this, and I guess MacG reached out to them. They gladly set up an interview with MacG for them to have a chat about the whole incident with Ari Lennox on their podcast. So MacG does mention there that he was adamant there's nothing wrong that he did, but he has been shown, he has come to understand now what he did wrong, and he does apologize. But what I did love about the interview, that he was immediately, when he started apologizing and saying that there are things that are disingenuous that Ari Lennox said. So I love the fact that he was corrected there on the platform, that you cannot apologize and then still be throwing shots at Ari Lennox, because it won't seem like it's a sincere apology when you do that. But he did apologize after that, and he did say he's sorry because he's not malicious in any way. That was not his intention. And I do believe MacG. What I do feel about MacG, though, I think more than anything else, he's not a male chauvinist. He is just juvenile, and I don't want to use that name for him because he's a fully grown man. But most of his things are more juvenile than anything else. And I am a little bit concerned, because the reason MacG, he's growing now and is catching a lot of flack from various angles. And I am a little bit concerned that the growth in the corporate may tame him. When I saw him apologizing, which is not something I've got a problem with, but now, is he being censored? Is this the journey where we start losing MacG, the raw MacG, him growing and learning the corporate space and how to maneuver in the corporate space? Will it censor him? Because the very same thing that brought people to the platform, we're seeing it being compromised more and more. Is he compromising? Is he apologizing because he's becoming censored? And that's a question I want to leave you with. So on to the next story. We're going to be talking about DJ Sbu. So most of you guys have seen that DJ Sbu has been trending. Just to explain what happened, DJ Sbu came out with a video where he was telling people, once in a while to walk barefoot. We are all energy, and once in a while hug a tree, and our hair grows towards the sun because our melanin basically feeds from everything that is provided for by nature. So he's been trending because of that, because people are starting to feel that he's going cuckoos. Most of you don't know, DJ Sbu was in America, and he was interviewing a gentleman there by Reza Islam. You guys must check out Reza Islam. He's one of those people who are pushing black movement and black consciousness and the sort of talk that DJ Sbu is talking about. So he's been on this journey. Even when he was in America, he was talking this talk. He was interviewing people like that. So I don't know where they started, but it seems clearly still intensifying. But I want to say this, Sbu has been on this journey for a while now. It's just intensifying. I don't know, maybe it's money. I don't know if it's an act, because DJ Sbu should know that these energy drinks are not the best substance to consume. And there's been a lot of things said about DJ Sbu by Zahara. I don't know if it's a facade, it's something to hide his public image. It's a distraction, because at the end of the day, if he's going to talk that level of consciousness, then what's happening with selling more fire? So I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me, but if a lot of you are going to just say he's just trying to make a living, but that's just something to think about. So that's why DJ Smooth has been trending. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to follow the channel, like, subscribe, and share. I'm out.